I have been extremely fortunate to have visited tons of ski resorts, honestly more ski resorts than I ever thought I'd ever visit in my life, largely all around the Western United States, Pacific Northwest, and even some into Canada. I've been to many in Colorado. I used to live in Colorado for graduate school, so I was able to experience a lot of resorts out there. I now live in Utah, kind of grew up coming out here, so I've been to, I think, every resort in Utah at this point in some capacity. Visited a lot in California, a few up in Washington and Oregon, Wyoming, Montana, and then even 3 or 4 up in Canada as well. But with all these resorts, there are still some that I have never been to, and some resorts, I guess you could say, are bucket list resorts for myself. So in this video, I want to just talk about some mountains that I've heard great things about, some mountains that I'd love to visit someday. I don't really have any footage to overlay of this stuff, so if I do put skiing footage over here, it's just going to be ski footage to detract from myself sitting here talking. But throw this on in the background, grab a cup of coffee or something, and let's just talk about some resorts that I hope to visit one day. These are in no specific order. I'm just gonna start in the US and kind of work my way from there. But one of the resorts that I really want to get to this year is Crested Butte in Colorado. When I did live in Colorado, I would, take the weekends to go to different mountains. I've been to Breckenridge, I've been to Vail, Telluride, A Basin, trying to think, Aspen at this point. I don't know, a lot of the Summit County stuff and beyond, but one of the mountains I've never really gotten to is Crested Butte. Crested Butte is always hailed as one of the more extreme resorts really in the entire country. I think they hold some big mountain competitions there. They have the world famous Rambo Run, which is like 50 degrees slope or something like that. But yeah, for me, with this type of skiing I like, I heard Crested Butte is kind of like the kingpin of that type of skiing in Colorado. So I think the reasons why I haven't been there before is, I could be wrong, but I think it's a little bit difficult to get to. And for whatever reasons, it's never really aligned with trips that I've made to Colorado. It's either been a little bit too far out of the way or just timing didn't make sense. But I think it's on one of the big passes. It might be on Icon now. It was on Epic before or something. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But that's the reason why I've never been there. It's not because I don't want to go. Some of those resorts in Colorado can kind of be a little bit separated from the main areas and other places. So for me, from a trip perspective, it's like, okay, let me go to Summit County where I can ski 3 different resorts, or, let me go, you get what I'm saying. So anyways, Crested Butte's definitely one of those that I'd love to get to and make a proper Colorado trip out of this year. Another one that I hear really great things about is Taos in New Mexico, Santa Fe maybe. I've never even been to New Mexico in my life. I've never even stepped foot in the state of New Mexico, much less skied at Taos there. I've heard whatever the top chairlift is there, it's pretty rad. And I've just heard, when the snow conditions are good, Taos is a pretty fun, gnarly, challenging mountain. And so it would be really fun to explore. I don't know if it's on the Epic or Icon Pass. Again, I have to look that up, but would be cool to make a Southwest trip, maybe hit Arizona Snow Bowl, maybe hit Taos, something like that. I don't know the best way to loop in that sort of trip, but there are times where Taos gets hammered and other places in the US and the West don't get that snow. So I think timing it where Taos in the Southwest is picking up some sort of low pressure flow and go there for a big snowstorm would be really cool. The reasons why I haven't been there before is largely just because of where it is. Most of my skiing ends up Utah, Colorado, and I end up pushing, if anything, more north into the west. So heading south into the west just never really fit into my trips and stuff like that. But it's not really a good reason why I've never been there. But again, trying to make my trips more efficient and worthwhile is kind of the main reason why I haven't detoured down that way. But again, like I said, I'd love to catch a storm out there this year and see what New Mexico and Taos is all about. Some other mountains in the US that have been high up on my list in the Northwest is Mount Baker in Washington. This has been one of those mountains where if you look at their average snowfall, they might have the most average snowfall out of any mountain. I'd have to double check, whatever. Point is, they get a ton of snow, and when I look at the trail map, it looks really gnarly. It looks unique. Like, it doesn't look like your typical trail map that you see at Park City or Snowbird or something like that. It just, there's this sense of sort of lawlessness to it, which compared to my skiing up in Canada, I enjoy that type of free-for-all creative exploration. And I could be right, I could be wrong when it comes to Mount Baker, but that's kind of the gist that I get when I look at it. But the main reason is there's snowfall, the big trees that you see in the Pacific Northwest, the terrain always looks cool. I feel like I've seen some really cool ski films and segments from Mount Baker, and it just seems a little bit different from a lot of the mainstream resorts that we hear about nowadays with Park City and Alta and Breckenridge and you name it. Mount Baker kind of always has this ominous, mysterious feel to it. The reason why I've never been there largely is because it's not on one of the big passes. So years ago when I started this whole thing, I really just bought the Epic and Icon. I was like, okay, I have more resorts than I need with these 2 passes. So for me, it was never like, I'm gonna go spend the extra money for another day ticket. I already spent money on 2 season passes. So the fact that Mount Baker was never on those is the reason why I never made it to there. I know a lot of the Washington locals love that about it, and I totally get that, but just speaking from my own perspective, that's why I never really went up to Baker, was just because I never really had a pass for it. So anyways, that's one of those mountains between that that I really would love to get to at some point in my life. The last one here in the US is Bridger Bowl in Montana. Not only do I just love Montana, like Glacier National Park, sort of like the way the Rockies go from there to up into Canada. Like Montana is always this really dominant, profound state in my opinion, and the skiing usually follows suit. Again, I don't really know why I haven't been to Bridger Bowl. I think largely because of the pass situation. I don't think I've ever really been on a trip that just incorporated Bridger Bowl, but from what you guys have told me online, from what the trail map looks like, it looks pretty freaking legit. I think there's an area or a ridge up there where you need a partner and a beacon and a shovel and a probe, all that sort of Abbey stuff. But I've heard like the ridge up there is some pretty legit big mountain skiing, and that's kind of the stuff I like. But being able to go to Big Sky, being able to visit Whitefish, I really enjoyed my time when I ski in Montana. So Bridger Bowl is another one of those mountains that comes to mind to kind of wrap up places in the US that I haven't been to that I would like to visit. So we got Crested Butte, we got Taos, Mount Baker, Bridger Bowl. 4 places in the US that really stick out to me. There's a ton of other places I haven't been to, but those places I feel like would fit my style of skiing and would be really cool to showcase. Let's head north of the border because skiing in Canada has really been a huge development for me in recent years. I feel like I've grown a lot as a skier from my experiences in Canada, largely at Kicking Horse, Revelstoke, Lake Louise. These places have really challenged myself mentally and physically as a skier. And when I return to a place like Park City or even Snowbird and Alta, like the experiences up north, they're just hard to replicate. They're one of a kind. So really the other mountains I'd love to go to is a lot of those on the Powder Highway, Red Mountain, Big White, Panorama, Fernie. These are all places that I think would be similar to my experiences in Kicking Horse and Revelstoke, and again, have this sense of lawlessness to them, have this sense of sort of creative skiing to them, and places I've just never been to. So really every year for the past few years now, I've been going up to the Golden area, skiing at Kicking Horse, Revelstoke, Lake Louise, but I never really made the trip down to anywhere else. So I don't know much about these other mountains other than the trail map looks sweet. They're kind of always, talked about as places to get to. So I don't really know Fernie over Red over Big White, kind of which ones I should really prioritize. I know Fernie people talk about all the time as being really sick. So that's definitely high up on my list. I've seen some cool things from Big White, Red Mountain. So anyways, this is just me saying I would love to explore more of those mountains sort of in the interior BC, around Revelstoke, around Kicking Horse, because they're really unique, one of a kind, and they usually all have really chill. Then lastly, this is probably every skier and snowboarder's bucket list destination, is Japan. I have no idea where in Japan. But I think Icon added a bunch of new resorts in Japan to the Icon Pass, so I would love to make a trip out there on a good snow season. I have heard that the terrain in Japan isn't necessarily the most challenging. It's not the steepest, it's not the gnarliest. You're not doing some, crazy shot 15, shot 16 drop off the cirque or something. But obviously the snow is what brings people to Japan. The fact that you can just have week-long storm cycles and you get what I love and what we get in Utah of just super dry blower pow. I've said it 1,000 times. Not all snow is created equal, right? You can get 6 inches of Sierra cement, or you can get 6 inches of, dry blower pow. They ski way differently. The experience is way different. But I would love to make the trip to Japan. I love ramen, I love sushi. I think the culture would be insane to go visit and be a part of. And so for me, the skiing would be great. I mean, I have powder skis for a reason, but the whole experience, flying, I don't really travel internationally that much. I think I've been to New Zealand once, and I go to Canada. That's like my extent of international experience. So just the fact of flying across the country, figuring out a new area, but then strapping on skis and doing something that's almost second nature to myself, which is just skiing and filming, would be really cool. So I think the reasons why I haven't gone are obvious. I largely do everything solo. So for me, it wasn't necessarily the best idea to just fly over to Japan by myself and figure it out the first time. I think doing it with a group of people that are similar level skiers, are similar in the content creation, sort of niche and stuff like that, so I don't annoy people, would be a good first way to do it. And then when I'm a little bit more experienced, if I ever need to, I could go again. But my point is, I didn't want my first time to be solo. I don't know anything about it. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to get around. Not that I couldn't figure it out. And I guess it would make for an entertaining YouTube series. But that's why I haven't gone. It's obviously expensive, to fly over there, all that sort of stuff. But hopefully at some point in my life, I would love to go to Japan. So if you haven't noticed the pattern, what I'm yearning for, what I'm looking for is powder big mountain skiing. So when a place has those, I usually want to go visit. I don't necessarily crave some on-piste experience. So I want a place where there's a lot of snow, fun terrain, and stuff like that. So super fortunate, very blessed to have experienced as much as I have. I feel like I could die happy and be like, okay, I've skied some of the most incredible places that people would only dream about. But it's not to say there's not more places that I would like to get to. So please let me know if you've been to these places. Are they worth going? Is it worth the hype? Do you have any advice for said places? And what are some of your bucket list places? Maybe places that I've missed. Hope you guys enjoyed the little video, something a little bit different. Hopefully I'll be out skiing here soon in Utah. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for the support. Peace.